why don't we talk about one that I think maybe we've all seen, Steve Jobs?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay, that's good. I think that's a good way to start this. Let's talk about Steve Jobs and what we all thought about it. And also the sort of like the commercial reaction to the film too. I find fascinating. But what did everyone think of this film? Do you think this is the front runner going into the season?
I don't. I think that its performance at the box office really hurts it quite a bit, and you know what? It was better than I thought it was going to be. I'm not a huge fan of Aaron Sorkin's style, that sort of rat-a-tat kind of style that he has. Like, I can't even watch. I think you guys like this show, but I can't even watch The West Wing. And I'm a liberal. I can't even watch it. But
I like the first season a lot. I like the first season of that show. I'm not crazy about it as it goes on. It's not one of my. I would never put it as one of my all-time favorite shows. I think I like The Newsroom in hindsight better of the two shows. I think.
And I've avoided The Newsroom for the same reason. Although I do love Social Network. But I liked this. I thought it was really, really very well done and kind of like a filmed play, and I thought it was very stylish. I liked the conceit of having the three separate looks to the film. The first part I think is done in 16 millimeter, and the second part was done in 35, and then the third part was done in digital. So. And I like that. I loved Kate Winslet in it, and of course Fassbender, Michael Fassbender in the lead. And I was generally I went in with very kind of negative mindset, and I liked it. So that helps going in.
I saw it yesterday finally. I took my butt out to see a new movie, and that was the one I chose. I'm not necessarily interested in Steve Jobs, so I wasn't yearning for the subject matter. But I really loved it. I loved it, first of all, for just the unique structure of it, and what he was able to pack into that unique structure, so it didn't feel like a predictable biopic at all.
Yeah.
I like, even if it's not true to the man, it's true to the artist's interpretation of the man. And I think that's an important distinction to keep in mind. I think that he created a really, really vivid, contradictory character. And I was so moved at the end of it. And I think, there's this girl sitting a couple of seats down from me in the theater, and she was looking at me towards the end, and I thought to myself, am I crying too loud? I got really kind of insecure about it, because that line at the end where he answers his daughter and he says, "I'm poorly made," I just thought that was such one of the best lines of the year. It just so beautifully encapsulated that character
without being overly sentimental or anything.
Right. I thought it was a beautifully written piece, and unlike even Social Network, I did feel that the other characters spoke. They didn't all sound like they were speaking the same voice, like what tends to happen with Aaron Sorkin. I felt like there was enough of a variety there, and equal credit outside of the screenplay. Equal credit goes to Danny Boyle, absolutely, for making this as cinematic as it could possibly be. I thought his visual flourishes were outstanding. Kate Winslet was great. Michael Stuhlbarg was great. Seth Rogen fit right in just fine. He didn't draw attention out. And Michael Fassbender is really wonderful in it. You could tell he worked his ass off in that movie, but he's really great in it.
I agree with all this. I think it's the most exciting movie I've seen this year. For not the movie that has no action whatsoever. It was just so fast paced and action packed. You really are engaged in it. And I also
it's sped right by. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't notice the passage of time. It really goes by very quickly. And that is, I think, the screenwriter and director and the performances are just stellar. I like it. I'm not a big fan of Steve Jobs, and I knew a little bit about him, but I've never been a big fan of him. I think what his most successful thing he did was he took basically Apple, which is the Betamax of its time, and made it successful. He made a successful version of the Betamax in the later part of his life. If you understand the analogy I'm making between PC and Apple, Betamax and VHS, he was able to turn that company around and make it what it is today, and so much so that they're having trouble in his absence. But that's the side of it. Michael Fassbender's performance is just like this Daniel Day-Lewis kind of wonderment. You watch it, you're in awe. I mean, you were just in awe of that performance. I don't think there's anything. I mean, there are a lot of great performances before that, but I don't think there's anything quite that he's done that is just so encapsulating as this. I mean, you were just engaged from start to end.
You know what else surprised me about it? I mean, some people might not see Steve Jobs because they don't want to see a story about a guy that changed the world and rah-rah, and he's such a winner and blah, blah, blah. 2/3 of the movie is about failure.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
which I wasn't necessarily expecting, because I don't really invest much thought into Steve Jobs' story, but I don't even own a cell phone. I mean, I'm not really, but that was surprising to me, and he softens as he finds success. At least in the movie, he becomes more kind of open. He's not as shut off and narrow-minded in his what drives him.
Right. That's very important. I also think that's the problem with the other movie, the one with Ashton Kutcher, is there is no arc like that. This has a very, when I first heard about this movie, I was very skeptical. I was just like another job. First of all, just another movie about Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I didn't. It sounded like it almost sounded.
I resented it.
It sounded gimmicky to me. It sounded very gimmicky when I first read about it. But the way they do it, and Jamie, you're absolutely right, this country, and that might be what it is, this country has a huge problem. They don't want to see movies about failure. We want to see movies about winners, and that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because that's the greatest stories are about failure. It makes for great entertainment, and this is definitely the epitome of that right now. Just magnificent filmmaking. I don't know, I'm kind of flabbergasted at how it didn't catch on, though. I must say I am in a state of shock.
Well, here's a question regarding
I'm
that.
not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Do you think it would have caught on had it been a David Fincher, Christian Bale movie?
Probably so, because those Fincher fans are getting to be like Nolan fans in some ways. So I think it would have. But I think that I generally think that just people are kind of Steve Jobs out